Ohio State's hire of Arthur Smith has sparked mixed reactions. Excitement about NFL experience, skepticism about fit, and both sides have valid points.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. During today's show, we will dive more into the Buckeyes' hire of Arthur Smith to be the new offensive coordinator. We'll discuss if this decision could backfire, as well as Arthur Smith's impact on Julian Sayin's development. But before we get to any of that, I got to bring in one of my guys. It's Coach Mo Murphy here on the show once again, the host of the Coach Mo Murphy podcast. And before Mo and I dive more into this hire, I want to take a quick moment to just quickly say I hope everybody has been safe with the snowstorm that's been going on around the country. Where I live, we got probably 6 to 8 inches of snow. I have seen other people that have had at least over a foot of snow. I heard somewhere in the Northeast, it could have been 1.5 feet of snow. Wherever you are, if you got snow, if you got inclement weather, I hope you guys are safe, because your safety is way more important than this hire. Your safety is more important than anything else. I really hope everybody has been safe. Hope you guys have the heat and the shovel and the snowblower and everything you need, including food, to stay safe during the snowstorm. But Mo, this hire, man, it came out on Saturday night. I was actually at a basketball game, about to do a video before that game tipped off, and my buddy came over, asked if I heard about the hire. I said, "What are you talking about?" I'm literally in the zone, getting ready for a video and trying to cover a rivalry high school basketball game. I said no, and then got home, did a show after that. And the more I think about Ryan Day hiring Arthur Smith, I begin to think about, well, it seems similar to the Matt Patricia hire, where people look at Patricia's NFL experience, what happened in the NFL, some of the bad things that were said about Patricia before he came to Ohio State, and there are mixed reactions because of that. I think to Arthur Smith, where he was last year in Pittsburgh, and the offense they ran the past couple of years, and the success they had at times, the lack of success at times as well. And I think if people like the NFL experience, that's a valid reason to say, yes, I like this hire. Also, if you look out there and you think, well, maybe this might not be the best fit, you're skeptical about Ryan Day's decision. To me, Mo, that's a valid point too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I would say I'm surprised. Like, I definitely was surprised, and trying to be optimistic or pessimistic, I'm kind of just in the middle as far as, I get it. Like, he's an NFL guy. It comes with some NFL experience, but it's almost like he kind of was a failed offensive coordinator. Now, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers offense per se was that bad, but it's not necessarily, it's the style of offense. It's the slow ground and pound, multiple tight ends, like 2 to 3 tight ends on the field at the same time. And like, when you're an Ohio State fan, you thinking about that old school traditional offense while you got Jeremiah Smith, you still got Brandon Ennis, you got Chris Henry Jr. coming in, you got, a plethora of weapons at the wide receiver position, and you have this expectation of like getting back to an explosive offense. I think with, the firing of, not the firing, I apologize, with Brian Hartline going to USF as the head coach, I feel like Ohio State fans were expecting a splash hire of like somebody that has the potential of unlocking this offense, and a Jeremiah Smith Heisman season loading. Not saying that can't happen under Arthur Smith, but I just feel like there's a lot of doubt if you were on the side of like, this was an opportunity for Ryan Day to say like, I'm going to commit to really a real splash hire. And maybe at the end of the year, we'll look at Arthur Smith as an offensive genius, like we looked at Matt Patricia as a defensive genius. And you put them two together, and Ryan Day is CEO, and they hoist the national championship. But there's going to be a lot of skepticism up until that point. Like, that's going to have to happen for us to really feel satisfied. Even if it is ground and pound and multiple tight end sets and not really a lot of 100-yard games from a Jeremiah Smith or a Chris Henry Jr., if there's going to be some sacrifice, but it gets us to the national championship and we win, I don't think too many people complain. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't know, Jay. I don't know, Jay.
No, man, I don't know either. And as I'm listening to you talk about his philosophy for offense and the type of packages he wants to utilize and how many tight ends he wants on the field, I don't like it. That matches what I've read and what I thought about him previously. I don't like that because that's similar to some of the issues that Ohio State's offense had last year. Too many tight ends are on the field. You don't have your best players on the field when they should be out there. Maybe you could have a situation like last year where you are playing the wrong running backs and you're not maximizing the talent on the field. All that stuff is stuff that happened under Brian Hartline, where you thought maybe it was an inexperienced OC, a guy who he's a first-time play caller, so he doesn't really know what it takes to game plan week after week while also coaching a full position and leading one side of the ball. I don't know. I feel the skepticism, but part of me, I've learned to trust Ryan Day when it comes to hires. And I try my best, even with Cortez Hankton coming in from LSU, I try my best to trust Ryan Day. The only real downside is we don't get any offseason football unless it's a spring game to really know what he's going to do. Now, in the spring game, if he rolls out there in 2 or 3 tight end sets and it's a really slow-moving offense and they're not really getting guys involved, fans are going to complain. I think there's a valid point right there to say, yeah, we're going to complain because this is not what Ohio State's offense should be. But also, he doesn't have to show us anything until the season kicks off Labor Day weekend, which also fans aren't going to like because you want the answers now. And more unfortunately, I wish we had the answers about what the offense is going to look like and how he's going to utilize these players. But, bro, we don't have those answers.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing about it is like, while being optimistic, like, well, with NFL experience, just coming off of being with the Steelers, like he just was around Aaron Rodgers. Like we do know Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. So like he was just around him and Aaron Rodgers spoke well of him. So not everything is bad with Arthur Smith, but like you said, you brought it up before the show, like with the Matt Patricia hire, like this guy was a defensive coordinator and also had won multiple Super Bowls. Yes, he was a failed head coach for the Detroit Lions, but like he had won multiple Super Bowls. It was under the greatest head coach of all time in, the NFL in Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick was a defensive genius and everybody knew it. So learning under that tree, like maybe his style didn't work. And that's what everybody was afraid of with Matt Patricia was like, man, I don't know if this New England Patriots style stuff is going to work at Ohio State. And like more so he came with personality and allowed people to play free. He kind of came totally opposite of what everybody thought of him prior to being hired as the defensive coordinator. So what if this is, I text you and Jeff, and I said, what if this is a chance to him of like revamping his image at the Ohio State University? Like this is an opportunity for me to take all of these playmakers and show that like I can play in a new offense and not that traditional offense in 2 and 3 tight end sets like everybody expects of me. I have a plethora of playmakers. I have an unfair advantage of a way of resources to get playmakers. And so I'm going to do that to catch up and change my philosophy to the modern day way of football. Like that's a possibility too. Like if you're being optimistic, like, and you sit on that side, I feel like that's a valid, like sit and wait opportunity because what if he does that? Matt Patricia seems like he revamped his entire image by doing what he did with 1 year at Ohio State. So like, what if Arthur Smith does the same thing? Like I'm just going to revamp my entire image at Ohio State. I could do this. And then I could pick whether I want to be a head coach in college or go back to the NFL. Like this could be for him to have another opportunity back at the NFL, or this could be him trying to get in and be at the college ranks. So, I mean, that's me on the optimistic side though.
Mo, before the show started, said he had one guy that Ohio State needed to call and that Ohio State needed to offer this job to this individual, and that individual needed to say no. He didn't tell me who that guy is. He's going to tell us all together after the break. This episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, This is a game everyone's been waiting for. This is what predictions turn in where predictions turn into plays. Stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because right after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Guys, I'm sure you're curious about who this individual that Mo is talking about is, because I've been curious for a long time. We talked 30 minutes, about 20 minutes before we hit record like normal. And so, Mo, the floor is yours. Who is this person that you think Ohio State needed to call to offer them the OC job for the Buckeyes?
Cliff Kingsbury, Jay. Cliff Kingsbury. I feel like this was an opportunity for Ryan Day to make a splash hire. And Cliff Kingsbury is the guy that would have made a splash hire. Find a guy that you know is looking to revamp his image, that you know would enjoy having these type of weapons, and Jeremiah Smith and Chris Henry Jr., knowing that he will maximize the type of weapons that he has, and knowing that he will maximize the type of talent, a quarterback in it that Julian Sayin and the potential that he has. And I think maybe people would say, well, why Cliff Kingsbury? Because people don't want, I think, a stopgap offensive coordinator. I think people want somebody that's going to be here for a few years. But we're not in the game of playing. Man, I can't think about 4 or 5, 6 years from now. I just lost to Miami, not being able to really score until the second half. And I was only able to conduct 2 scoring drives in a playoff game. Next year, I got Jeremiah Smith for 1 more year. I know that for a fact. I got Chris Henry Jr. coming in. And hey, with the way the transfer portal works, with the way tampering works, with the way if a guy's not satisfied, people can see that, hey, man, you can get 100 catches over this way. You can get 100 catches and $5 million over this way. Hit the portal. Like, you have to think about all of these things. And who knows? Cliff Kingsbury could stay for a year or 2 or 3. You never know. And who knows? Ryan Day could be looking at going to the NFL. Let's say Cliff Kingsbury is this high-class offensive coordinator at Ohio State. We might not even have to go on a head coach search. We might just hire Cliff Kingsbury over. Like, that was a vision and dream of mine, because I think Ryan Day is interested in going to the NFL at some point. Like, and I think that's a fair interest. He's got plenty of coaching career left in him. And so winning a national championship at the college ranks and being a consistent playoff team and, you know, being a Big Ten championship contender every year, just recently making it to the Big Ten championship game and playing down to the wire to the team that eventually won the national championship and kind of railroaded through everybody until they played Miami in the national championship. Like, that's a fair assessment. And so I even think, like, as the DC or OC, like, I'm looking for somebody who could potentially replace me. Like, kind of the same way Urban Meyer did. Like, he knew when he kind of handpicked the guy, and he handpicked Ryan Day. Like, the same way you were done. I feel like, you know, Urban Meyer went out on a limb and was like, Ryan Day is the guy that deserves this job. Like, I feel like you could start setting yourself up for some type of exit when you head to the NFL, which I think is a very high possibility. And I think Cliff Kingsbury will be the perfect guy. We talk about these youngish offensive gurus, these guys that are going to connect to this new generation of athletes. Like, Cliff Kingsbury is that. Cliff Kingsbury had Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. Like, don't forget. Like, he has a rap sheet of, you know, I know when he was the head coach and the Arizona Cardinals weren't good. I get that. But he's an offensive genius. And so for him to be able to come to Ohio State and fully focus on the offense, I feel like that would be like the dream. That's just me personally. I don't know if everybody else would think that, but I feel like Cliff Kingsbury was the guy. If I'm Ohio State, I'll dial in and make him tell me no. And then maybe I'll fall down and end up with Arthur Smith. And if it comes out that Ohio State did something like that, then cool. And they fell on Arthur Smith because Cliff Kingsbury did tell them no. But I just felt like there was no reason why Ohio State should not have called Cliff Kingsbury and, like, you have to tell us no. What is it going to take to get you as our offensive coordinator? I felt like this was a perfect time for Ryan Day to say, I'm going to commit to revamping this offense without it having to be my offensive mind. I can still be CEO. Y'all have no fear. I got an offensive guru that's going to get this offense going.
That hire or even that phone call happening, and let's say he was hired over Arthur Smith, you're going to get excitement like you mentioned. The fan base is going to be all in on the new OC. There's not going to be any skepticism or pessimistic thoughts in anybody's head. But also those donors are going to be all in too. So I don't even know what the donors think because I don't have any connections with people that have that kind of money. And so I don't know what their thought process is as far as with the Arthur Smith hire. You believe that Ryan Day has talked to the necessary people and his bosses, but also those that got the cash to make sure that this is going to be cool. But we don't know. We don't know who Ryan Day has talked to when hiring Arthur Smith. Let's just say, Mo, I don't want to be negative right now, but I have to be because of the conversation we're having. Let's say the boosters don't like this. And the offense does look a little bit like last year's or maybe a little bit worse than last year's. The boosters won't be happy. And we all know when that money starts flowing in, that's when certain decisions up top are made and maybe your coach could be gone. I don't think Ryan Day is going to get fired, but maybe somebody on that coaching staff might not last very long. I don't know if the boosters are all in this. And if they're not, I can understand why they are pessimistic like the fan base.
Well, or maybe Ryan Day is an absolute genius and people don't realize who Arthur Smith's dad is. Or, you know, he did pass, but he was the FedEx CEO, like, you know, comes with a lot of money. And so, like, maybe there's a method to the madness of where we can, you know, allocate some of these funds from, and we hire a guy who comes, you know, basically inheriting a fund of a lot of money. Like maybe that, and I hate to put it like that, and people be like, oh, we only hired him like that. Like it's almost like a joke as opposed to like, but if there's a method in college football now, there's really no rules. Like money is king right now. The transfer portal is king and money is king right now in college football. The more money you put into this roster, like, and I know that Indiana just won the national championship, is getting older, but like now that that's the blueprint, people are going to be trying to get older poaching from these top tier teams. So it's going to cost some money. Nobody's going to try and do what Indiana did and go and poach from Bowling Green and poach from James Madison, JMU with their former coach, and then develop it over 2 years to get to this point, because they have to beat Indiana right now. And Indiana then already created the blueprint. Miami then created the blueprint. Ole Miss then created the blueprint. Like those were 3 of the 4 teams who really heavily invested into the transfer portal while it was cheap and smart. Now that decision becomes expensive because you're going to be trying to poach top tier players that have been around for 2 or 3 years and are going into their last year of eligibility, that are NFL ready, that you want to come to your team. And that's no longer going to cost you $250,000 for that guy that has experience, that can outdo a former 3-star with 3 years of experience that's more ready to play right now than a 5-star freshman, which is a fair assessment. I'm more a grown man. I'm 21. This kid's 18. Like I'm more ready to go. And that's what Indiana put together. People are going to copy that. Ohio State really they really entertained the transfer portal this time around. So money, it's no longer $250,000, $350,000 in order to get these guys. We're talking about millions of dollars, and we're talking about guys from top tier programs that are being poached, and now lawsuits are flying out. Even Duke just won the ACC championship. Not saying they're a top tier program, but they just won the ACC championship, and they're losing their quarterback because he got tampered with by Miami. And now there's a lawsuit and everything like that. But money is king. You never know what money could get for you. And so if that was also a thought process, who knows? Maybe Arthur Smith in his application put that out there as part of, hey, this is what I'm willing to do as I'm the offensive coordinator. You know, I come from money. I can allocate some funds. I can make some moves. I know some business people. Like I know a lot of people with money. I'm in that circle, and I can really help, you know, get this Ohio State program funded to the point of really being the top tier NIL program in the country. Like, and if so, then Ryan Day will seem like a genius. But just from the football standpoint, like Cliff Kingsbury would have been like, man, that's a home run, grand slam, walk off. Like, I'm coming to win the national championship. I got Cliff Kingsbury as my OC. I got Matt Patricia as my DC. Everybody does love Ryan Day as CEO. So, oh man, with those weapons and with Julian Sayin with another year under his belt, with who was the most accurate passer in college football last year, and a Cliff Kingsbury who we know like would spread it out, get all those receivers that came to Ohio State, all those receivers that stayed at Ohio State, and all those receivers that are at Ohio State will get plenty of touches. The running backs will be happy. Like the offense will be very explosive because the personnel is there for somebody like Cliff Kingsbury to do exactly what he wants to do right away.
I'm right there with you. It would have been a splash hire. That was one guy that when he came open, I was like, man, Ryan Day, you got to get this done. He didn't. That would have made a whole lot more sense to me than Arthur Smith. What I don't know would make sense is if Ryan Day bringing in Arthur Smith would be a part of Ryan Day's exit plan. Would that be a wise decision for Arthur Smith to be a part of Ryan Day's exit plan out of Ohio State? We'll tackle that after the break. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And this week's moving the game forward moment, it all goes to Bruce Thornton. And it's not just one game that he's played this year for Deep's boys and the Buckeye basketball team. It's about his 4-year career. You're going to look back in 20 to 30 years and try to describe the history of Buckeye basketball, and you can't describe it without talking about Bruce Thornton. He's a potential All-American this year, top 10 scoring all-time in Buckeye history. And to me, he is one of those true Buckeyes. And if you're trying to get a block gold jersey on the basketball court, that has to go to Bruce Thornton. These moments remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. So, Mo, we were talking about Cliff Kingsbury. You mentioned something about, well, maybe when Urban Meyer hired Ryan Day, there was a part of Urban Meyer's exit plan. Like, hey, I'm going to be retiring soon. Who would I want to bring in to replace me? I don't know if Ryan Day has a plan to leave Ohio State anytime soon. I believe his contract is up in 2032. I also believe he does dream about going back to the NFL. I'm going to ask you this question because I don't want to answer it. I want to get your thoughts on this quickly. Would you be comfortable if this hire was the start of Ryan Day transitioning out of Ohio State to make Arthur Smith the next head coach of the Buckeyes?
No. No. I was hoping that was not the question you were about to ask me. God, no. No, I would not be okay with that. I would almost be better off if you told me it was Matt Patricia. Swear. Like, if you told me now, like, Matt Patricia was part of his exit plan, after how year one went, after how much them players loved Matt Patricia, after how much a guy like Caleb Downs was very vocal, and in today's world, like, the internet matters. Caleb Downs has a podcast, had multiple Ohio State players on his podcast from the defensive side, Sonny Styles, all those guys, and we'd all know they were praising Matt Patricia all year. So, like, that gets out there. Some of the top defensive players in the country are praising not just Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, but Matt Patricia, the man and the type of guy that he is. If we went that route and that was the thought because of the success the defense had, if he can run it back that same way and the players are still loving what Matt Patricia is doing, I will be more okay with that than you telling me you brought in Arthur Smith to take over as the Ohio State head coach. Now, if it comes with the family inheritance, Jay, hey, you know, in today's world, until there are rules tapped in on it, money is power, and you got to be connected to that. Like, that's what it is in today's world, especially in college sports. We're seeing former NBA players come back to play college basketball currently because there's money in it. They're making more than they would make in the G League. So money is power, but no, I would definitely more entertain it with Matt Patricia. And that was like Ryan Day's exit plan and Matt Patricia's entrance into the college football world as a head coach, but not Arthur Smith. No, God, no. Like, as optimistic as I am, like, at least pitching the optimistic side. And if you want to sit on that side, then great. Like, I could see that side. No way. Like, I will not jump on that and say, like, Arthur Smith. Cliff Kingsbury to me was the boom. Like, if you're telling me this is my exit plan, I'm getting a guy, a genius, who told me he was interested in being a head coach. Perfect plan to put him as the OC and then take over for me when I leave. And this offense is explosive. And we know Cliff Kingsbury has been a college football head coach before at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes and all that. He would have all of that for everybody to love, understand, and be okay with that. But Arthur Smith, no. Like, no. And I'm almost thinking this could be part of his exit plan, not necessarily for Arthur Smith to be the head coach, but like with Arthur Smith and his connections to the NFL, like who he is you know, and it's all about relationships. It's not about what you know. Sometimes it's about who you know. And you bring right in the building. I got Matt Patricia and Arthur Smith. I got two former NFL guys in my building, man. If they see the way I work and the way I operate, they might be able to vouch for me when I put my name in a hat for a job. Whether it's NFL offensive coordinator, whether it's an NFL head coach, no matter what it is, like Ryan Day might want all the backing in the world from guys who are respected in NFL circles. And that's what he got, I think, with Arthur Smith and Matt Patricia on his team. So I could see that, but I don't know if part of his exit plan is to say, like, I'm going to deem Arthur Smith or Matt Patricia. I don't even know if Ryan Day had the same juice Urban Meyer had. Like, Urban Meyer throwing his name out meant, like, the world to kind of give, endorsing Ryan Day. I don't know if Ryan Day's endorsement of anybody will hold the same type of weight to where that would definitely be the guy. I don't know if fans or Ohio State in general would be on that side.
I don't know either. And I think part of it is because of the media and the way that you and I talk about Ohio State and doing podcasts and things like that. I think the oversaturation at times, some people may say like there's a lot of news and a lot of people talking. I don't think Ryan Day has the best public approval rating that Urban Meyer did back in the day, where I think, I know Ryan Day's been more successful as far as like win percentage, winning in a snapshot. That 7-year stretch, yeah, Urban went to back-to-back national championships with Tebow, or 2 and 3 years, whatever the case was. But like, I think Urban's approval rating even now is super high, even after what happened in Jacksonville. I don't know why Ryan Day's approval rating and why people don't view him in a bigger way, because he's clearly one of the best coaches in the sport. I would look at Ryan Day and think, if I want to coach at a top tier college football team, I have to call Ryan Day. When it goes to the NFL, I'm calling Ryan Day, but I don't know how he's going to do in the NFL. I don't know. He's been with college kids for 9-10 years. Mm-hmm. That's different than dealing with grown men that are making a lot more money than you. That's a whole different animal. So like,
is it much different in today's college football though, Jay? What he's been dealing with the past 4 years, is it really that much different?
There's nobody on the team right now that makes more than him. There's a lot. There are people in the NFL locker room that would make more than Ryan Day as a head coach.
And a lot of those guys that do make more than him are at least 21 and up. There's 18-year-olds coming off the streets. Yeah. So, and I ain't talking about the streets but I'm just saying, coming fresh out of high school, making $2-3 million.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Irresponsible, immature, all of that. Like having to deal with ego. You give just take our 18-year-old selves and give us $2 million.
Oh, bro.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I know nobody's making more than him, but as you grow, you mature more, and you just respect the man of craft, especially being a professional. Like the expectation is you act like a professional. And I know that's not always the case. And there's head case players in the pros and all that, but you're dealing with like having to bargain you're letting 16-year-old kids talk you out of your pants.
Yeah.
Like in today's world, you're bargaining with 16-year-old kids. You never thought you would do that. And that comes to a point where he might be a good NFL coach, because it's not much different. And now at least I'm dealing with nothing but grown men. I'm not I'm not having to be the man amongst boys and raising them into men. I'm a man amongst men leading. Like I'm the, a Mike Tomlin type, not saying that would be him, but just I'm a leader of men. And I think that's what Ryan Day is. And so I think Ryan Day, go to the NFL, get him a good offensive coordinator, good defensive coordinator, and I think he'd be set. That's everybody's dream when they get there, but I think that's the type of coach Ryan Day is, even right now. And I think that's why we question the Arthur Smith hire, because, like, okay, you nailed it on the Matt Patricia hire, told you so, but how many told you so's on your resume do you want to have before you have to be loved by the fans? Like, I love Ryan Day. I'm a Ryan Day guy. I've never been wanting to fire him, because I always say the grass. Okay, you let him go, and who do we replace him with? Who wants the Ohio State job? I know everybody would take the Ohio State job, but like, who do you actually land on if you don't want Ryan Day? So I am a huge Ryan Day guy, but like, it's okay to question even your favorite guy's decisions sometimes, such as like a decision like this, like Arthur Smith. I don't even think Arthur Smith was on anybody's mind. Anybody's like, and I really feel like it was like almost a slap in the face to like you and everybody else that covers Ohio State. Like, bro, we've y'all had all these conversations with all these people about what the possibilities of what Ohio State's going to do, and they land on Arthur Smith. Like you that's not news you expect. Like, oh, what? Like, you look at you covering a basketball game, like, bro, seriously? Can't even get excited about. Like, Cliff Kingsbury, boom, bro. You could put the camera. Nobody has to have a crazy thought. Y'all could have everybody that covered the Buckeyes, pop the camera on and go crazy for 30, 45 minutes to an hour about the possibilities of what a Cliff Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator could do for the Ohio State Buckeyes, do for Julian Sayin, do for Jeremiah Smith. We would be talking about like Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin being like the only two people showing up at the Heisman ceremony and holding it up together type stuff with Cliff Kingsbury. Now it's like you got to be optimistic and you got to sell people that are on one side to the other side. Shoot, you got to believe the optimistic side yourself. Like, I'm somewhere in the middle. I get what it could be, but I just I just feel like Cliff Kingsbury would have been like, that's what it is. He would have had to show me he's going to fail. That's what it would have been. He would have had all the fan approval rating. You got to show us you can't do it. Arthur Smith got to show us he could do it. Cliff Kingsbury would have showed us, like, bro, you got to show us that you ain't the offensive mind that everybody tells us you are. Because we're going to believe it. You got to show us otherwise. You got to show us, you got to give us a Brian Hartline type offense for us to be out on you. Where if Arthur Smith come in with this Brian Hart, we'd be like, see, man, we didn't want this anyway. We should have never hired this anyway.
Mo is getting fired up. And if we have more time, trust me, there's a lot more thoughts in my head about this hire and stuff. Mo has already said that Mo and I could probably go on for another 30 minutes about this very thing. So stay tapped into the offseason. Mo will be back frequently every now and then when our schedules sync up. So we can talk about this hire, spring ball, and all the other stuff about Ohio State football, because that's what you love. That's what we love. And we get fired up about it. That is Mo Murphy, the host of the Coach Mo Murphy podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Coach Mo Murphy. You can follow me on the same platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. Buckeye fans, we're up out of here on a Monday. We'll see you next time.